First thing is any kind of cuts or transactions we have to make, making sure that all the paperwork is all ready for that. And then I have a great staff here that does a lot of that. In Spencer Zimmerman and Curtis Ruckavy and Ian Sanderson, Vince Magri, those guys do a great job. Then it depends on the day. You know, today we're doing a lot of cap work for next year because as we work on our cap for this year with the injuries we've had and things, we're going to have a certain amount of money to use on, and so we're looking at the guys we're going to re-sign and you know, structuring deals so that we utilize the money we have left over. So we do a lot of forward thinking in terms of that. The coaches will normally come in and take a look at the board here, which is basically gives us an idea of who's going to be up this week and who's going to be down and the injury situation. I'll always talk to the trainer early. I go down, try to go into the locker room every day and talk to players and make sure they're, you know, everything seems to be, you know, good down there. And then, you know, I'll come back, I'll watch film of prospects that they've prepared for me, or I'll watch film of our previous game or of a upcoming opponent. Sometimes, occasionally, the coaches will throw me a bone and ask me for my opinion, coaching-wise, on how to attack something. But that's always fun. I'll do that during that period.
Well, former coach of the year never hurts anyway,
well,
right?
It's one of the fun things I enjoy doing. And again, I try to stay out of that end of it because Scott does a great job and his staff. But like I said, once in a while they'll throw me a bone and let me look at stuff like that. And then I'll go to practice. I'll watch practice and after practice get my exercise in and then come back in and again make any adjustments I have to the roster if we've had injuries during the day of practice. And that's during the season. That's pretty much the day. It's before you know it, it's 5:30, 6 o'clock, and some days it's a little later, some days it's not. But I try to touch with every player, every coach, every day. That's I want them to know that I'm accessible, and the coaches know where they can come to find the roster. And you know, I'll call them in occasionally and say, okay, you have a choice between this guy and that guy, and you know, who do you prefer, and you know, that kind of thing. So
I think being hands-on like that too is why you have such a long career in this as a general manager. Is because people know you're there, you're involved, you're in ear, you're available.
Well, haven't coached, I understand a little bit of their end. I think it's harder for a coach with a GM or people in this position that haven't coached because they're not as clued into what their issues are, where I've been sitting in their chair before, both as a position coach and as a coordinator and as a head coach. So I've done all that.
You've seen it, you've felt it, you know
right.
it.
So it's easier for me to relate to what the problems they go through.
That makes a lot of sense. How about analytics? Like, do you guys, like, I know a lot of sports are talking about analytics now. People are looking at that as a way to prepare for opponents and stuff. Where does that play in for you? Are you more of a gut instinct kind of guy, or are you an analytics guy?
Well, analytics is coming more and more into it. We hired an intern this summer, Brandon Lustig, from a local guy from but he goes to Arizona State and he's getting his master's degree. And his former teacher, actually, at St. Lawrence, his son is the head of analytics with the Dolphins. So we sent him down with the Dolphins, and we're trying to move into that and get into more of that. Brandon's graduating this year, and we hope he's back this next year, and he does some of that for us. We use it both with the coaches in terms of tendency things, but which has been done for years. But we're also using it now with the salary cap and probabilities and things like that as they relate to the draft.
I tried to do some research on the salary cap before meeting you today, and that is so complicated to try to figure out. I mean, that's a whole day in of itself.
Yeah, it is. I was very fortunate in that when I was in Calgary, I was named the GM there before they had a salary cap, and the owner, Ted Hellard, was one of the pioneers of the salary cap. So they were putting it in and getting it installed in the league while I was in my first year as a GM. So I was able to learn it from the ground level up. And Ted's one of the great businessmen in the world, and he taught me how to do that. So I think the way we manage the cap is we know the loopholes because, or not the loopholes, but the ways to utilize the cap and how the cap works. And I've watched it evolve, to little things like where housing used to not count against the cap, where now it does count.
That was the
There's
sort of
been
stuff
there's been a lot of changes over the years. I mean, if you buy lunch for your team, that's a cap issue, and you have to know how all that works. So
Remarkable.
it's been I was very fortunate just when I got into this GMing thing, because I had always been a coach up until 2005.
That's right.
And the GMing thing, once I started doing that, I was fortunate to have Ted there, who was involved in instituting the cap for the first time. I think 2006 was the first year we ever had a cap. So I've watched the evolution of it, and that's been really beneficial, because I would have had no clue. I'd have been just like you.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a football-related question.
Yeah.
Here's the name, Eric Martin. Tell us a little bit about Eric Martin.
Well, Eric's a guy that we watched for a long time. He was on Winnipeg's neg list. He went to Winnipeg. He actually played against us, played real well. He's just a guy that has athletically the things we're looking for. He got released from Winnipeg. They had, whatever happened, and we were able to sign him. So he's a guy that's a great special teams player. Not a good one. He's a great special teams player from the University of Nebraska, where he played with Josh Mitchell, our rookie halfback. And he's a guy that can rush the passer. And Sean Lemon has done a great job. Ricky Foley and Justin Hickman, they're on the other side. We just needed to get another guy that can do that. So we think Eric can come in and compete as that other edge rusher, but also give us something on special teams.
5-9. Playoffs certainly not out of the question by any stretch. If you look at the standings, they're right in there. What key things does the club have to do for the rest of this season to make the playoffs and compete in that Grey Cup here in Toronto?
Well, we have to start executing the way we can, and maybe put some of the personal things aside and not take penalties that we've been taking. We took more special teams penalties against Montreal than any team I've ever been with, and we have to stop that. Coach Jeffries, our special teams coach, has done a fantastic job this year, and he's been attacking that hard. So we need to do a better job in terms of field position and those kinds of things. Obviously, defensively this year's been Coach Stubler came in. He runs a very complicated defense in Calgary. They're running the same defense basically that because he had put that in a couple years ago. But they've got everybody on their back end who's been there for 5 years. We've got all rookies, and most of them have been on the 6-game list for a little bit. So it's been a constant turnover, and that's been a struggle for us. So hopefully they'll continue to mesh. This will be I think their 3rd game in a row together playing, and hopefully growing. And coach is able to add things as they get a little more developed. We haven't had our linebackers in all year. Now we have both of them, Marshall McFadden and Corey Greenwood, played for the first time since game 1 together the other day. So, it's just a matter of getting guys back and getting them tuned, and they've got it, come around quickly. When we have a tough schedule, we play Calgary twice and Edmonton and Saskatchewan. So it's it's a tall order, and we got Drew Willy in now, who last week is just kind of how this season has gone. First week of practice, he didn't take a snap in practice because we gave all the snaps to the starter, Dan Lefevre. So after the first half, Scott made a change, put Drew in with no reps in practice. This week he comes out, he's going to get all the reps. First day he gets all the reps. Second day he comes out, boom, he hits his hand on a helmet. He can't practice that day, loses a whole day. Okay. Comes back the next day and gets a few reps. But he was able to play in the game, but again, played with not a full week of practice. So this week he's going to have another week of practice. We made some changes at receiver. And, we've got some young Canadian guys we're really excited about. Brian Jones is going to get an opportunity to start this week, and Levi Noel, and some guys that we think have a chance to really make a mark in this league. And they're young and they're hungry, and they're going to do things the right way, and that's exciting. So it's going to be exciting from that standpoint to watch Drew as he settles in. When we made the trade for Drew, it was about winning this year. We just felt like we needed to make the move we made, and he's a guy that we've had targeted for a long time as our potential future quarterback, and now we have him, and it's just a matter of him developing and learning the system, and he's coming along very well, and he's going to get better and better each week, and one of these weeks you're going to start seeing the scoreboard light up and Drew getting it, and the thing will change.
Is he the starter for the rest of the season?
Yeah, he'll be the starter as long as he's healthy. He'll be the starter, and this is his team at this point. He's the quarterback that we're going forward with, and Ricky is still here. He's still under contract. What he's going to do in his future, we've sat down and talked to him. He's very good about wanting to mentor and would be the ideal backup quarterback in our situation. Again, at the end of the year, we'll discuss all those things. At this point, Drew Willy is our guy, and that's why you don't trade first-round picks for somebody to come in and be your backup. It took us 2 first-round picks to get Ricky when we got him. One, we had to get Stephen Giles, who we then traded with another first to get Ricky. So you hate to do that, but you're either going to get your guy or you're not. And we said we're going to go get him when Ricky broke his ribs against in the Labor Day game, and we just felt like we needed to do something drastic, and that's what we did.
Sounds exciting to me. I have one final question that's, I guess, after the game, and that's really is we've been talking to a lot of CFL ex-players, coaches, and administration to ask them their opinion about when a player should start thinking about their post-football career. When should those ideas start coming into their minds? When should the planning for that really begin?
It should start while they're playing, without question. I think what happens a lot of times, for example, a lot of guys want to get into personnel. Okay, if they wait till they're done playing, they're going to go from making a lot of money to personnel guys notoriously are not the highest paid, and you start at a lower level and you work your way up. It's real difficult for a lot of them with families to do that. Justin Hickman is a guy who wants to get into personnel, so this year we sent him on the road, and he's learning how to scout, and he's writing reports, and he's doing those kinds of things that an intern type position would do while he's playing. And I think that's really important, especially if they want to get into something in the football business. I think doing it while they're playing is crucial. So I think that they have to be thinking about it. Football's a unique sport. You can go out to practice and never play again. And I think that players understand that and need to be looking forward to what they want to do when they're done. And they're fortunate now, most of them are doing something they love to do. And finding that thing that you love to do is what they need. And so hopefully, as they're playing, they're figuring out. We have a lot of players. Tyler Holmes, very successful financial planner down, and Wayne Smith, banker. I mean, they're working right now during the season when they're either in the afternoons after football's over that day, they'll go to work, and so they've got their careers in the financial business. Chris Van Zyl, very successful real estate agent. So a lot of the players are working on their careers post-football, so which is a real credit to them.
And it's a credit to you guys as well, to make sure that that's in mind with the players as they're here participating in this wonderful league. I think that's it.
Okay.
Thank you again so much.
Very good. Thank you, Andrew.
That's Jim Barker, General Manager of the Toronto Argonauts. I'm Andrew McDonough. We'll see you next time around.